All right, today we're going to dive into a really profound concept. We're talking about the relationship between strength, what its divine purpose is, and maybe most importantly, the ultimate test of sincerity that's hiding behind every single thing we do. So let's start with this foundational verse from the Quran. It introduces this incredibly powerful idea, right? That there's this kind of built-in divine system to keep the world in balance, a system that's literally designed to stop unchecked corruption from just taking over everything. And this isn't just some rule for one specific moment in time. The source material makes it clear that this is a constant, universal law. Think of it like a principle of checks and balances, but one that's woven right into the fabric of human history. So what is this law of checking exactly? Well, the idea is that God always raises up one group or one force to keep another one in check. It basically ensures that no single power can just dominate and spread chaos and mischief without any limits. It's a system that's there to preserve the world. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. How is this principle applied? The source explains that this law of defense isn't just for one group of people. No, it actually serves a much, much broader purpose: to protect the sanctity of worship for many different faiths. And the text is incredibly specific here, listing out monasteries, churches, synagogues, and mosques. This really highlights that the principle of standing up against oppression is meant to be a shield for anyone who worships God, no matter what their particular path is. And this verse just perfectly illustrates that point. It says flat out that without this divinely ordered check and balance, these sacred places where God's name is remembered, they all would have been destroyed. So the permission to defend is directly linked to preserving freedom of belief itself. But, this permission to fight, it wasn't just some sudden aggressive command. The whole legislation around it was revealed gradually, piece by piece, in a very measured way that actually responded to the circumstances on the ground. It was all built on a very clear ethical framework. And you can see the progression so clearly. It started with a command for patience, even in the face of horrible persecution. Then, and only then, came permission to fight back, but specifically because they had been wronged. After that, it evolved into an obligation to fight aggressors, but, and this is key, strictly within limits. And finally, it became a collective duty to defend the entire community. This shows a careful, ethical approach, not just a blanket call to arms. But fulfilling this duty, it took more than just getting permission. It actually demanded a two-part preparation. You had to develop your physical strength, and even more importantly, you had to purify your soul. Okay, so the first part was just practical. A verse in the Quran commands believers to make ready against them all you can of power. And that meant developing real-world, tangible skills and capabilities to face any threat. And the Prophet Muhammad made it crystal clear what this power meant in their world. He didn't just say it once, he repeated it 3 times. Lo, verily, power is archery. This really drives home the importance of skill, of training, of being tangibly ready, not just having passive faith. But that physical strength, that was only half of the equation. The second part, the part that was way more crucial, was the spiritual prep. This was all about purifying your intentions and really understanding the nature of life and sacrifice itself. This verse frames the ultimate commitment as a kind of spiritual contract. Believers are taught to see their lives, their possessions, everything they have, not as their own, but as something that's already been exchanged for the ultimate prize, paradise. And it's that detachment from worldly things that purifies the soul for a higher purpose. And this right here brings us to the absolute heart of our explainer. All of these actions, the preparation, the struggle, the sacrifice, they are all ultimately weighed on one single scale, the hidden intention of the heart. Which brings up a critical question, right? If our outward actions can be deceiving, how do you even measure true sincerity? Well, the source material gives us a powerful and honestly a pretty sobering cautionary tale to answer that. The prophet described the first 3 people who will be judged on the day of resurrection. And their stories, they reveal this terrifying gap that can exist between how the world sees us and how God actually sees us. Just look at this. You have a martyr, a hero praised by the world, but he's judged because all he wanted was for people to call him brave. Then you have a scholar who taught the scripture, judged because he just wanted the title of scholar. And a philanthropist, judged because he wanted a reputation for being generous. In every single case, The action itself was noble, but the intention was for worldly praise, not for God. And because of that, all those great deeds were rendered completely worthless. And this verse just ties it all together. Life's trials, the good days and the bad days, the hardships, the struggles, they aren't random. According to this, they are the very mechanism that tests true belief. They're like the furnace that separates the gold of sincerity from the dross of pride and ego. So, we're left with this one final thought. If a martyr can fail and a scholar can be rejected, then victory clearly isn't measured in battles won or books written or money given away. It's measured in the silent, unseen sincerity of the soul. That is the ultimate battleground.